All right, I'm here.
All right. So, Joyce Moth, we are uh, making progress. We'll get to you guys too. Jump in anytime you need to. But yes, I think we should go on to Alberto and just see how far we can get. I'm pretty mellow on time. I got to deal with dinner at some point. Probably have like another hour or so.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. Uh, so so in general, where I'm at in my life right now is that finally we completed the for I mean I'm in Brazil since almost 9 years. Right, I came here because we invested in this mining project. We invested about 3 million euros that I raised from family and friends, 36 Italian investors. The biggest investor is my father, my family. Uh, and finally, after obviously it was supposed to be, I mean, we came here with the idea of becoming miners, and then I mean we also did some mining, but on the side. But I mean, and then after 9 years, now we just did surveys because we started with one substance which was manganese, and then we found out that manganese was a substance because the deposit is graphite. So then we did all these surveys, and finally this we completed the surveys in a very professional way. So we scientifically mapped the deposit, which is very rich and ideal for the battery industry, right? Because graphite is, and so finally, after 9 years, we're doing the last checks now. With the presentation should be ready by Friday, which I'm eager to send you, Jay, to get your feedback on it. And this is the right project that we that funds, London funds, big London funds, and big Canadian funds would buy. So we'll start contacting them and try to sell this project finally. So I'm finally exiting this chapter. I mean, I started with very naive into the sector, and it's definitely not something that I want to do. Continue doing. I want to close this and just get my money back, make my profit, and hopefully invest it, make a good profit, and invest it only with Jay in FQN. But the thing is that it's been very, I mean, it's been crazy, right? It's been a crazy adventure, and it's been a big toll on my wife. And today we're passing some through very harsh times. Now it's a bit better, but every day it can change, and it's been very hard in New Year's Eve, and this has obviously destabilized me mentally a lot. But now hopefully we found some common ground to solve the situation. We'll move back to Italy as soon as possible, as soon as we sell this project, which optimistically is going to happen within 3 months. But we think that maximum 6 months we'll be able to close the deal and move back to Italy. But it's been very harsh. But something that kept me going was obviously SVG, and although the way that we started to develop SVG was a bit confusing for me, because it was kind of, we let so much of the things that I loved about the model, like completely we started ignore them. But then we had that evil session where we made clear that we absolutely don't wanna lose all of that. We want to bring it back. But I mean, the point is that I'm very downcast in general with all that happened with the 1099s, because that was a very important uh, how can we say, very important test for us, for SVG as well, right? And we performed really badly. I mean, it was really, it's like it's like I haven't learned nothing in the last year. all that I learned just went out of the window, and I'm really sorry for that. And yeah, so I would like to use this time to maybe discuss that. And I mean, we talked about these new management systems that we want to implement, and with these deadlines that I think are going to definitely help. But I mean, yeah, my biggest my biggest goals for the short terms are two: obviously selling this mining project finally and closing this chapter, and stop living this life of difficulties in this mining sector, and launch SVG and make SVG successful. Absolutely, and support Jay to accomplish his vision with all my power. But we need to do it in the right way, and the way that we worked on the 1099s has been just I don't know, very disappointing, and so I don't know. That's what's going on a little bit in my life in general. So I don't know what support I can ask here to you guys, but the support that I ask is that we all get together and work professionally, and as Jay said, slow down and focus on really excellent outputs, no matter what, right? So forget all the rest and just focus one thing at a time, because there's no point in doing work if we don't do it in the way that it's changing, right? It's different from the rest of the world. So that's what really differentiates us from the rest of the world, the way that we work. And if we forget that, and we don't put that back in everything that we do, there's no point in doing anything, right? So, and I know I am responsible of, obviously I'm very responsible, but I think it's the whole team, right? The whole team is just should also try to focus in understanding the model, and in making sure that the model is followed and implemented. Right? So this is a bit. I mean, this is a bit what's going on.
Cool. All right. Really quickly, Joyce was making a message about next week's organizational support session. And
Yeah, I received a message from.
yeah, I saw. And I think you should just use the Google invite from last time and just make sure that it's scheduled for next week. And then it should be, everything else should be automatic because he's already on that.
Okay. But
anyway, you can help with that later. So anyways, back to you, Alberto. I have a lot of thoughts here. I mean, there's so much going on. There's so much to unpack. I think the best thing is just an open discussion on this, right? So I was just going to respond. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I would love that.
So I don't know if someone else wants to take notes, but basically, like, and I mentioned this a little during my check-in, which you were a little late, so you missed it. But the bottom line for me is that, like, we all agree on that. Obviously we have to slow down. We have to be professional, and we need a model. We need a model that works, and it needs to work for us. So I have to question everything, especially in the context of the timeline and the launch and the SVG itself. Because if we as a team aren't ready, it doesn't matter even if we can hold SVG together for a month or 2 months or 6 months or even a year. If we can't scale and we can't make it happen because our team is not functional to be able to hold on to a exponential growth, we're just not ready, right? And it doesn't make sense because then SVG could fail. And that's where I am the most concerned, where, I know SVG can be successful, but what concerns me is it's putting all of our eggs in one single basket. Because if SVG did fail, it's an unnecessary roll of the dice, right? And it's kind of the roll of the dice is a couple different things. One, it's like our ability to work as a team now. It's our ability to recruit new good team members and train them and get them engaged and functional. And then 3, it's really the clients, right? Our first couple clients is kind of like a roll of the dice. Whoever we end up getting, we might get the right client, we might get the wrong client. Because if you get the wrong client for the first client, it can just set you up in a very difficult situation. So there's at least 3 rolls of the dice there. And those are not great odds if we're putting everything all in one basket and we're trying to launch in a very hurried way and we are just like not fully prepared as a team. So with that said, that's what makes me feel like it's extremely important to slow down, take a step back, to really think this through and really think about the bigger picture. And what I think are some of the essentials, and I'll write these down. I'm on line, I'll do it at line 60. Obviously, we need the team dynamics policy. Team dynamics policy. So the team dynamics policy should be able to address a lot of the details of how we operate as a team. And then from there, we just need to continue to evolve and improve the models, methodologies, and there must be a model where it has to be impossible to, for bad mistakes not to be caught by the team somehow, some way. So our team, like right now, I'm less concerned about the fact that a mistake was made and more concerned about the fact that our team is currently not capable of catching mistakes, right? And that we're not really working as a team, right? It's like if we're all working as a team, me, Ma, Joyce, Alberto, all of us would be on the same page and we'd all be communicating regularly and we'd all be able to understand where we are and what's going on and what the next steps are, and most importantly, what is going well, what is not going well, all that stuff, right? And we also have this other new proposal for the management
deadlines,
status reports, which would be a new upfront pay stop. But the problem is that I don't think that's enough, right? And so for me, the 2 most important things are, one, actually, let's do 3. I'm going to do 3 things. One is basically our team functionality to be able to function. And this comes down to like our methods and systems of how we are able to work together and actually catch and achieve and address problems. 2, I think that the management model is, potentially a mistake. And that we might want to go to some other model where, for example, we could do co-coordinators, like SVG co-coordinators. So, for example, the main question is, Alberto the correct person for being the primary manager? And that's a difficult question to ask, but either way, we can definitely question whether or not that's a good fit. And maybe having a primary manager at all is a terrible idea. Maybe there shouldn't be a primary manager because it doesn't really make sense in the context of our overall model for FQN. The model for FQN is very simple. There's management, there's lots of managers, and then anyone who manages managers is a coordinator. And then you have coordinators, you have co-coordinators. So if we go back to the coordinator and the co-coordinator model, which I think might actually make more sense, we might want to have SVG co-coordinators, which could be, SVG co-coordinators could be, for example, Alberto, Joyce, and you could even have Alberto, Joyce, and myself. We could have 3 co-coordinators. Also, we could consider whether maybe Joyce should be and Joyce's role in being a co-coordinator and or a manager, a primary manager, whatever. So I think all of those things are very important to consider in moving
So,
forward. And then the last thing is that, or the third thing is that I really think it's extremely important to consider and even move forward with diversifying our income goals, because we absolutely know from the very beginning the problem was income. SVG is just a solution. SVG is not our only solution, and putting all our eggs in one basket might actually be a mistake, because against these three rolls of the dice that I was mentioning. So we have SVG, which is for the client work, but we also have a lot of other possible ways of bringing in income. There's the investments, right? There's grants, and the grants has come in relationship to Stacy talking about, wanting to work on the grants, and I have some really good ideas on grants that I just came up with in the last couple of days, which I'm excited about. Also, there's fundraising / merchandising and e-commerce and all that, and then there's also there's one more. I'll get it. But anyways, that's all I had to say. Where I think that I think if we could put together a plan, and I have a new model for this, where we actually balance our income approach, it would take a little bit longer, but we would still do SVG. We would still launch SVG. It would happen within a very near time frame. But we would also, oh yes, sponsorship, our sponsorship program, right? So we would have there's 5 very clear models for income, and some of these we're already doing. So it wouldn't be very hard to get all 5 of these up and running. And then if we did this and we balanced it correctly, it might take a couple more months to do it right, but this is like a slam dunk guarantee, not only income, but it would slam dunk guarantee stable long-term income, even if SVG failed or had a rocky beginning with a bad client, right? So with the roll of the dice with SVG, this model of a 5 income approach would guarantee us long-term stable income, and it would be like a slam dunk, and I feel like there would be no way to fail. Whereas with SVG, I now feel it's possible we could still fail. So anyways, that's all I have to say.
right. So in response to that, Jay, my point of view is the following. So for me, 1099s was a big benchmark, right? To see, all right, how are we going to be able to meet our clients' goals? And we failed, right? So obviously, I'm an entrepreneur, right? So risk is in my veins. So I don't really, when I do something, I believe it's gonna be successful, but I know that it can fail, obviously, but that's not the point. The point is to do our best and to launch something that we believe it will be successful. Then it might fail, all right, but the point is that today we're launching something that obviously we see that it's the way that we handle the 1099s, it's obviously, it has been a failure, right? So this scares me, because we need to launch SVG, but we need to launch SVG and be sure that we are launching something that we know that we believe that will be successful. Then it can fail, but we need to launch something that we believe it's real. So, and what happened, I don't believe it at this time, right? So this makes me very, very worried, and so yeah. Regarding, we need to run and implement some very management systems, deadlines. What we know that really works is the deadlines, up from based on deadlines. We need to bring back, as we said, all the management. Everybody should be responsible for a process or responsibility that they need to be managing. And regarding the primary manager position, I'm definitely up to, let's try to see how Joyce can do it, because I see that Joyce she's very good in reminding and making updates and giving status reports. She's very she's very organized on that. So for me, I'm totally open in going back and focusing on the work and leave the primary manager role to Joyce and see how it goes. But the point that I'm worried is that I mean, obviously I don't want to slow down, but it's not only about me, right? We need to bring the team up to a certain standard before we are ready to launch. And whatever we're ready to launch, I mean, that's the other income opportunity that you're mentioning. Yeah, they're cool, but if we don't work as a cohesive team and everybody is trained, everybody understands how the work is supposed to happen, and everybody doesn't do the work professionally, and everybody does the work just to do it and without following the policies, there's no point in trying anything, right? So what I feel that we need to do is we don't need to take a decision now to postpone any launch and anything. I mean, we know that we will launch when we're ready to launch. And at this point, we're definitely not ready to launch. We're not definitely to launch a website that says, oh, we will do your taxes on time and with professionalism and everything, which we know that we are not capable of doing. So that's what's my point of view, and that's what I'm thinking. So what I think is that definitely we need to push and run to make this new policies, these new systems, these new deadlines. I think that's the first step, right? These new policies of team dynamics and everything. So do a review of our main policies for the team workflow and all of that. That's it's the first step. But the second step is exactly to slow down and to go back to do training, onboarding, and really make sure that the whole team is running at the same pace, right? That the work, whenever the work happens, it's not that because you're in a session with Jay, you work in a way, and then you're in a session alone, you work in another way. And this needs to change. So the work needs to be, we need to know that the work is standardized and it's following policy, and we focus on the responsibility organizing and improving the responsibility organizing for who's coming next. And no matter the time, no matter the thing, we need to focus on the outputs, because today I'm not comfortable in launching a company or a business venture that says we are this, we're that, when we are obviously not. Because for the 1099s, I mean, it's like, for me, it was a big benchmark, and it was just a disaster. Right? There was no communication, there was no verification going on, there was no following the responsibility organizing the right way, there was no improving, updating responsibility organizing, there is no the work. We didn't even the work of W2, W8, and W9s. We didn't follow policies for PINDA. Everything. There's nothing. We just got lucky. We just got lucky because the W2 and W3 were automatic, and we don't have too many 1099s, and the external deadline for the 1099s is in the end of February. So we have February to make things right? To go back, to slow down, and to focus on our team, to focus on the workflow, the team dynamics, and the policies, because and setting up deadlines. Because what works is the deadlines. Unfortunately, we're not in an office altogether, right? We're in a virtual, so we need to make sure that there is some strong motivation to get the work done. So that's where I'm at, right? So, and so yeah.
Yeah,
check.
so I mean, I think that sounds more or less like we're on the same page. So there's a couple things that need to happen. One is that we need to update the priorities for the SVG launch to include, something about, workflow dynamics, team functionality. I don't know. There needs to be some sort of minimum criteria that needs to be met to publicly launch SVG in the relationship of us being functional to be able to at least meet the basic level of, like, let's say 1 or 2 clients, right? We should be able to take on 1 or 2 clients and feel like we will be able to accomplish that work along with the existing internal clients we already have, right? Because we already have, like, basically the equivalent of 1 or 2 clients, right?
Yeah.
So in that context, it's like that needs to be added because that's a very different criteria than the criteria we had before, which we just agree to the website and then we launch, right? It's like, okay, let's take a step back. I think that it's possible if we never get to that point, we can still do an internal launch and we can still do a soft launch and we can still basically move forward with our LinkedIn and our social profiles, but we're not going to do like a hard launch. And what that would turn into is maybe a word of mouth. And that's how we've always functioned in the past, is we basically get new clients and new sponsorships versus from word of mouth, right? So in that context, we would still possibly get clients and we still could possibly get, more people involved and bring in more money, but it would just be not overwhelming in the context where we would have potentially a lot of clients and have this whole scaling thing if we did a hard launch and do public advertising, right? So I feel like that is very, very important component, and that it's actually okay to push back a hard launch and just do more of word of mouth and more of a soft launch in the short term, right? With the nonprofit and everything. The second thing is that, we're in pretty good shape if you think about it. Like, I was looking at the status of all these income opportunities, and there's the 5 different income opportunities. And in my personality, in my perspective, we have a lot of bandwidth to continue to improve on our situation. Also, Bitcoin has been going up in value a little bit, which is also good for all of our tokens and everything. And in the context of just like what we can do about that is definitely sit down and consider a broader approach to income and addressing this core fundamental priority, which is, the income of or the network or the income to the web or whatever we're building. And then from there, I think that if you go back 6 months to when we developed the Sensei model, we never actually updated the models. Like our models are only functional as they are based on being alive, in essence. Like if we know there's updates and things that need to be improved, and we just ignore them, then it kind of slowly kills the systems and the models and everything. It's like when we know there's things that need to be changed, it's better. So I'll put this in line 15. It's better to focus on the methodology and systems when we know they need to change. So, I think this is kind of like a hard stop. Like, know how we have we have this new policy proposal to do basically 0 to 9 on policy tracking regularly, right? And so we could also do another proposal from 0 to 9 on our methodology, right? Like overall, how is our methodology going as an organization? When it drops below, like if there's a lot of changes, like I would give it like a 2 right now, maybe a 2.3. It's like we need to stop and like check in on the methodology and get that focused on it and get that trajectory back in alignment with the needs of the organization. And we just haven't done that for so long, and the methodology has been evolving and we haven't been implementing it. So the Sensei model, the segmentation model, right? The team dynamics model, some of these different policies that we want to enact, but there's also
The
some
management.
very exciting new things. Like I think diversified income model would also be very good, but there's also specifically some new concepts that I have to deal with organizing in a way that's more fluid and more dynamic based on our needs. Because I think we get stuck sometimes in more of a too rigid of a model where it's like we're not moving things forward and we're waiting for other people to do stuff, or we're just, I don't know. Anyways, we need something that's more interconnected and more dynamic, and I have an idea for that. I'm excited about it, but
Okay.
it's like it's really hard to bring up in the middle of something else. It needs its own space and its own time. And I think even beyond the eval session, because the eval session evaluates our issues, it doesn't really address the methodologies very well. So maybe something beyond eval. Right. So I can stop there.
Yeah, I think we should focus on all of this tomorrow at SVG main session, and make clear the main policies, introduce the main policies, introduce main management system, update our priorities, and yeah, because this is not the way that we want to move forward.
Cool. And I mean, tomorrow's going to be really difficult for me to present methodology. So, I mean, I do feel like that would be good to do at a separate session. I'm just not sure what to call it, but let's just schedule a main session on methodology, right? Schedule or make a topic on methodology. Schedule or topic on methodology. Yeah, I think that's just super duper 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 important. And it just never comes up anywhere else. It's not a good time to deal with it. But I think it does need to be its own separate thing. And then if we go with some of these new models and methods, they allow for a dynamic system, which means that for tomorrow for the main session, you could either call it the main session, right, or we prioritizing as the SVG main session. So now, yes, it's the SVG main session, but in a more dynamic model, we just have a main session, and it's about scheduling the main sessions and then allowing for what needs to be prioritized at that main session to happen. And in this context, we're still focused on SVG, but if we do put into question whether we should only be focused on SVG for now, then as soon as we change that, it would just become like a general main session that we would keep, right? The main session would never go away, right? So what I think is important is understanding that everything we did to build SVG is perfect. The fact that we have it so close to launch is perfect. Like we need SVG for a functional FQN, right? For something that's publicly presentable. And so I'm really excited about it, but I'm not sure if we should just only focus on that. So anyway, we can talk about more about that in the future.
Yeah, exactly. We've been focused too much on the finish line, and we forgot to focus on the race. I don't know how to say it right. So we were focused too much on launching SVG, and we just dropped the ball on oh, the word that you said, it's key. It's scalable, right? Everything that we do needs to be scalable. And today, it's obviously what we have today. It's not scalable, because if I suddenly stop working or you suddenly stop working, uh, things would not not move forward, and that's my concern. So we need to bring the whole team, at least to have some some management systems that we all follow, that we all update ourselves, right? So we all know where to look for what's the work priorities. We all know where to look it for. What's the status on the priority? We all know where to look for to know the status on the priority. Who is working on that? We all need to know who is doing that and what's been the last update. So that's what I think it's missing here. And also uh, the policy keeping, especially in the work. I mean, we need to go back in making sure that the responsibility organizing are constantly updated, improved, and followed. And everybody, we should never be doing work that it's not organized in a responsibility organized. So
Yeah.
that,
So
that's what I'm missing.
another way that I can put it in perspective. Okay, let's just think about what you just said, right? And we didn't even write it down, but you just said at least 8 different things, maybe 12. Okay.
Okay.
And I mean, you're 100% correct. But in addition to those 8 or 12 things, we know that there's also an additional 10, 20, 30 things on top of that, right? Am I correct?
Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
So this is where the fundamental, I mean, this is not just our problem. This is a problem with our entire society. Everything is overwhelming and there's so much going on. There's so much you have to do even for a single organization. And you apply that to society and movements and actually changing everything to be in alignment and balance and, with the earth and everything and our actual goals, what we're trying to do. And it's extremely overwhelming. Even just those 8 things, right? As human beings, we just don't operate that way. So I have been like working on these models, and these models are basically, we build resilient networks, right? We build multi-organizational organizations, we build organizations, and we are now considering building this idea of a web, right? And if you think of a web, and I'm going to switch actually to the Jitsi, and I know we need to take a 5-minute break really soon. So, and I know we're about to get policy tracking soon too. I don't know how many minutes we have left. But anyways, if you can look at my screen,
Yeah.
I'm going to switch to the whiteboard.
Okay.
Okay. And when you look at a web, like let's say, wait, it's not working. So can does anyone, I don't see anything. It's not, oh, maybe I do this. There it goes. Okay. So here I'm making little dots. I wish I could make them bigger, but they're not
Hmm.
very big. Okay. So these are all the dots, right? So when you look at a web, all the dots kind of connect together and you get this web. So when I think about a web, I'm thinking about this web. And so a network, which we've been building in the past, is basically just like one little component of a web, right? So this would be like our current network. It's just like one little itty bitty component. So try to make it colored there, orange, right?
Hmm.
So, but when you think about this web, it's kind of like a spider web, and it's kind of just sits there. It doesn't really move. There's nothing happening, right? And it's just
Hmm.
all kind of sitting there, and maybe connecting to new things and growing a little over here, right? But this is just not the reality of what is actually happening in consciousness. And I'm just starting to realize this that our whole model of building a web might actually not be correct because it's just too static. It just sits there, right?
Okay.
So in essence, it doesn't actually work because it doesn't apply to what is actually going on. So what's actually going on in consciousness, and let me see if I can erase this and start over. Let me take a picture of it real quick. So what? Do you guys have any idea how to erase everything? Is there like an erase button?
Let us see.
Or a new save image as? Oh, look, I can save the image. How cute. Okay, but what I want to do is, so remember, this is the Afghan community network right here. Is like we're just one little network, right?
Hmm.
So is there a way to like click the next button? I think I can push this, right? No. If I push, is there? Oh, here I can just scroll down. Okay, boom,
There
scroll
is
down.
the
No, I just scrolled down.
yeah.
Perfect. All right, so just go down to the next layer down. Okay, so this is what's actually going on. Okay, like think about that entire web over here is like a little tiny web. Like the entire web that I just drew would just be like this little tiny section over here, right? And we are all moving through consciousness and the galaxy at close to the speed of light, because basically we're going around the Earth is spinning, the Earth is going around the sun is going around the galaxy is going around the super galaxy is going around the great attractor, and it's just like our entire universe is spinning, and it's just like massive amounts of consciousness and movement and interconnections on every level, okay?
Yeah.
So we are going very, very fast. And if you look at right here, so this is obviously the FQN community network, right? And we're building this web. What's actually going on looks more like this, right? The entire web is like spinning and flowing through space-time and consciousness and evolving and growing and changing, and like just like we just said, there's like 50 different things, there's 50,000 different arcs, and they're all basically evolving and growing and changing and interconnecting and disconnecting and reconnecting, and it's just endless. Okay,
Yeah.
so you guys kind of follow me here about what's actually going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I can follow you.
So basically, the term for this is what is called a vortex, right? So society and every organization within society and the social system that's embedded into nature and is embedded into our solar system, dynamical, multi-dimensional conscious construct that's interconnected with the galaxy and the universe, is flowing through an infinite vortex of space-time, and it's all interconnecting and moving. It's not just a static web, it's a dynamic, ever-changing vortex, and it is in many ways overwhelming. And it's meant to be that way because they don't want us to be able to basically control it, and we can't control it, right? Because it's a ever evolving vortex. So if we understand the concept of what we're going through as an organization, as a society, I think that we could build a model that would be much more functional, and each one of these lines represents what's called a trajectory, right? And so each trajectory evolves and changes and grows, right? So trajectory, and the trajectories themselves interconnect with other trajectories, and then you end up with you just plug that into our already existing models. So I'm going to go back to our notes now. Now let me take a picture of this real quick so we have it, because this is I think really, really good. So with our current model, what we have is we have umbrella responsibilities, basically, I think they're called primary responsibilities, and then you have sub responsibilities, right? And it doesn't have to be responsibilities, it can also be processes. You can have umbrella processes, you can have primary processes, and you can have sub processes, right? And it goes on and on. You can have all this stuff. We have umbrella organizations, we have primary organizations, we have sub everything, right? So we could do the same thing with trajectories. You can have umbrella trajectories, primary trajectories, and you can have sub-trajectories. So as we start building again, I used to always say a web, but now based on the actuality of connecting all these dots together, I'm realizing that we actually don't want to build a web. We actually want to build a vortex, right? And it's much more powerful than a web. They're much more exciting than the web, and it's actually functional, because webs aren't functional because they don't actually exist. Nature is not technically just a web. It is a vortex, and it is ever evolving, and it's ever changing, and we want to match nature. And I thought that the web and the web of life was what we wanted, but actually that's just our perception of nature, that nature is a web. But it actually is not a web because it's moving at almost the speed of light, and consciously, nature is a vortex. So we actually want to build a vortex, and I'm kind of excited about it. So anyways, I'm just mentioning, we just literally just connected these dots just now, which is why I'm sharing it. So anyways, if we step back and we look at these models and we update them with the model of the vortex, with the model of connecting that to our network, and the model of building these trajectories, it will actually slow everything down and make everything so much simpler, because as long as we're on the trajectory that we all agree is the correct trajectory and its sub-trajectories and what it connects to, as long as in the present moment we're focusing on the priority, we are going to be fine. And everything is going to connect together, because that priority will just lead through the trajectory. If you understand the trajectory itself, the trajectory will just lead us automatically to the next responsibility and the one after that in the correct order, because it's all basically organized that way. If you understand the model of the trajectories, because the trajectories just take us to where they're going already, right? We're just basically jumping on board with them, right? So
Very cool, Jay. Yeah, very cool.
so it would simplify everything, because instead of needing to constantly be dealing with 100 different things or 8 different things or 20 different things, you're really just focused on one single trajectory, and then you're understanding them deeper. You get into that trajectory and understand all of its sub trajectories and all of its primary details and how it all relates to itself. That allows us to just get more and more in alignment with where we're going and how we're transforming. So I think it would actually simplify a lot of things in an organizing model, because right now we just get so overwhelmed with just 5 different things. And really we need to be focusing on one thing, doing it really, really well, and then having that lead to whatever's next. And that's what a trajectory is. A trajectory is simply focusing on where you are now in the present while you're moving to wherever you're going, which you don't necessarily know, and you just go with it and you flow, and then you just connect all of those dots together, and it automatically brings you to the next point in the trajectory as it evolves. So anyways, I would love to do more training on that, and I would love to schedule a methodology session and just document all the stuff, create a 1 or 2 pager, set up a model that can make these 5 things successful, because I already basically have 90% of it planned out, and this 90% of it is already on top of, like, we're only changing this tiny little bit of the overall models of FBA Community Network, which is, or in the Unity network and everything, which is like 90% of that's already completed. So we're already finished 99% of everything. It's just this 1% little change, and we were
Let's do it.
Okay, so I definitely think this could be a high top priority. We could make sure all this happens. We can make sure SVG happens. We can stabilize our finances. We can switch to the nonprofit budget. We can get all these things moving forward and organized in the short term. And anyways, check. I'm excited about it. Thank you for letting me.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's do it for sure.
And that's basically what I wanted to say for my section too. So I feel like we kind of already did me. So we can take me off of the list. So I want to do Joyce and Mark next.
Yeah, let's do Joyce. Mm-hmm.
So
we want to take a quick break,
and then we'll go to Joyce?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.